Welcome to my show. A guest here. His name is Jen Burke. Mr. Jen, how are you doing, sir?
Very good. Very good. Great to be on your show.
Yeah, I'm so happy to have you too. Thank you so much, Mr. Jen. Firstly, you are an author. You are, and you also have over 30 years leadership experience, and over 20 years you've been dedicated to martial arts. Can you please, sir, discuss more about yourself and how you are doing currently now, sir?
Sure. Thank you. So doing great. Yeah, I have over 30 years of operations management experience. So, I've been dealing in leadership roles across a variety of different platforms, over 30 years. I've also been involved in the martial arts for over, 20 years. And, I've had a great opportunity to be able to write three books, The Iron Road, Striking Success, and Dojo in the Mind. And they kind of, all three books kind of tap into the combination of my experience as an operations manager in leadership and also with the martial arts, and kind of blended the concepts together to come up with a couple of different themes and books on how potentially to help people in their path.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jen. And I can also see you have written some books, Mr. Jen. Can you please, sir, discuss more on your book, which is The Iron Road and Striking Success, The Dojo of the Mind? And do you also have more books you are planning to write in the coming future, sir?
Yeah, great question. So yeah, The Iron Road is a book that's kind of dedicated towards helping young. It was written primarily for young men, but on the feedback I'm getting from the book, a lot of young women are enjoying the read as well. But it's a guide towards creating success, developing integrity and becoming your best self, both personally and then translating professionally. Striking Success is what I did was I put together a book that kind of actually it did utilize mastering some leadership skills using principles found in the martial arts, which translate very well into leadership concepts. And then The Dojo of the Mind is a book that, and it translates, I specifically focused on the martial arts, but it translates into all physical activities, exercise, the mind-body connection, and how, in this case, the martial arts can help facilitate mental wellness. Obviously, along with if folks need professional help, that's always paramount. But if they're having some, mental wellness issues or some concerns, first, obviously, always get professional help. But then this is just kind of a book that goes over how the martial arts and again physical activity, exercise in general, can help with mental wellness and well-being.
Hmm.
And in the future, I do have a couple of thoughts. I haven't completely formulated the outline. I mean, a couple of thoughts on my next book, but I haven't really nailed down kind of how I'm going to lay that out yet.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Jen. And I would like to dive to the point of procrastination. A lot of people procrastinate today. It's definitely not easy. It's has even gotten to a point it could be a issue in the world we find ourselves today. What do you think are the main reason people procrastinate, Mr. Jen? And how do you think one can, identify this specific triggers, sir?
Yeah, so great question. There are a couple of things. There are a lot of reasons why people may procrastinate. It could be a fear of failure. They don't want to take on a task because they don't think they can accomplish it. Another reason people sometimes procrastinate is because they feel overwhelmed, whether with the task specifically or just in life in general. And many times it's a lack of identifying goals and what your purpose is. And frankly, sometimes people procrastinate because they just they don't want to do it because they don't like doing it. And that's so I think those are some of the key factors that could cause people to procrastinate. One of the things that is critical to overcome that is developing some patterns and habits that can help you take small bites out of a particular task in front of you and that can help you kind of step out of that, help you kind of move towards action as opposed to holding back and kind of hoping it goes away. If that's a phrase you can use, but often it's a fear of failure and being overwhelmed that creates people situation where people will procrastinate.
Hmm. Thank you so much, Mr. Jen. And some people would definitely want to know the habit or stuff that could possibly trigger this procrastination. I would like to ask Mr. Jen, what do you think are some of the common habits that reinforce procrastination, and how do you think they can be changed, Mr. Jen?
Yeah, sure. So often it's comfortable to procrastinate. So a great example of this. So a lot of times people hit the snooze button, 3 or 4 times in the morning, not wanting to get out of bed. And that's a really basic form of procrastination, but um, it's it's really comfortable to kind of hold back and not push forward. And I think that is a situation that creates a pattern of a habit of procrastinating. Um, it and it goes across many different avenues in life. It's not just personally or professionally. It could be, you don't want to deal with something mentally, and you could push that to the side and hopefully wait. Hopefully it goes away. You think it may go away or it might resolve itself, and that's often part of a pattern that creates a situation where people get into the habit of procrastinating, in my opinion.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jen. And I would like to also think of daily routine. I don't know if daily routine also helps in overcoming procrastination, Mr. Jen. If it does help in overcoming procrastination, Mr. Jen, what role do you think creating, a structured daily routine, play in overcoming procrastination, Mr. Jen?
So, much like the habit of procrastinating on things
Hmm.
that you need to do, it also helps to build habits where you're creating patterns of actually doing something. So, patterns, in my opinion, habits create patterns, and then patterns create consistency. And the road to success in anything is consistency. Like take example for bodybuilding. If someone goes in and works out one day, a muscle once a month, it's not consistent enough to make change. So I think, creating habits that are positive, and they don't have to be. What I think part of the problem is sometimes is people get overwhelmed by having to address or deal with a particular issue or challenge. And what's really critical, I think, is to look at taking small steps first. Because if you build the habit, maybe taking literally as little as 5 minutes a day, let's say, for example, let's say you're looking at a task that you want to do, or you've been holding back on doing and you don't want to do it and you're procrastinating because you don't want to do it, or you're afraid you'll fail doing it. Do it in small bites. Make a map for a day. You may sit in front of your, let's say you have a computer, or let's say you're writing something, whatever it might be, a physical task, and break it down into small bites. And by building those habits every day, it could be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever it might be, whatever you personally choose to do, that can create the patterns that help you build consistency. And then once you see development and you see progress, that helps people actually get past the fear of failure. And even if you do fail, it's fine, because from failure, you never fail if you learn something from it. So I think that's critical, is developing positive habits of, even in small bites, of tackling a particular problem or issue.
Well said. Thank you so much for the insight, Mr. Jen. And in the world we are today, with the internet, a lot of things, I would just say a lot of things are really, really, demotivating, and it pulls a lot of pressure in we most of the time in with the young people. It makes us think we are not doing enough. It makes us think maybe we are doing what we think. It just makes us feel like we need to get what we have to get. Something we're supposed to get in 5 years, we'll be expecting ourselves to get it in 5 months. So I would like to ask Mr. Jen, what strategies do you think can help someone stay motivated when working on long-term goals or projects, Mr. Jen?
Yeah, great question. So, that's a great observation. We live in a world where information's at our fingertips. And it's really critical to try to, there's a lot of negativity in the world, whether you're in social media or whether you're watching the news, whatever it might be. And unfortunately, what happens is, in my opinion, obviously, I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist, but I think over time, if you constantly listen to negativity, that absolutely can affect your mindset and what your expectations are. Because if you're constantly hearing of problems around the world, or whether it's locally, whether it's people individually, celebrities, whatever it might be, that could demotivate people to even try. So I think it's really, really important, especially with the internet and so much information at our fingertips, is that you choose your information wisely. Try to limit the amount of negative information that you're taking in, and try to look for the positive. Try to find, whether it's at a local library, whether it's on the internet, searching on Google, whatever it might be. Finding mentors that can help you develop a positive mindset and a positive outlook on life. Listen, life is difficult, for everyone, and in varying stages for everyone. No one has a perfect situation. Everyone is facing some challenges here and there. And I think it's critical that, one, that I think it's very, very important for people to have a positive self-image. You are truly, let's say there are 8 billion people in the world. Everyone is truly unique. And that's a gift. And everyone has strengths and weaknesses, and I think it's really critical for people to accept your strengths and weaknesses and not take it in a negative vein. Some people are great at some things, and people are not so good at some things. And I think that also plays into procrastination, because people think they're going to fail. It goes back to the fear of failure. But I think that if you try to absorb positive information and look for positive mentors, and build those habits, once a day. Look at some inspiring quotes from someone, or go to the library, pick up an author that's inspiring. And it doesn't have to be a specific topic. It could be anything. Just, building those neural pathways where you're developing a positive outlook in life, I think is critical.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jen. And I also want to dive more on people who are working remotely or who are also working independently, the way I am doing currently, Mr. Jen. How do you think someone can manage procrastination when working remotely or independently, sir?
Another great question. So many people in the world today are working remotely. Many of my friends are. And, I think it comes down to a mindset, and also the environment that you're in. So, to be able to stay motivated, one of the things that, I mean, I'm actually, I work in an office, so I'm actually in an office every day.
Hmm.
I set daily goals in front of me, and I actually write them down. I'm kind of old school. I don't do it on the computer. I write down on a sheet of paper what my goals are for that day. And I'm absolutely committed to getting each one of those items done that day. So that develops a habit of overcoming any type of procrastination. And what happens is, at the end of the day, for example, if I don't get, just because of something else comes up during the workday that pulls my attention away, if there are items on that list that I haven't gotten to that day, they automatically go to the top of my list the next day. And you can use that philosophy and that approach at home as well. I think it's also really important for the environment. Everybody has different home environments. It's really, I think, in my opinion, I think it's critical that the workspace that you're working in, you kind of, if you can, develop it into a space that truly is, when you walk into it, you're understanding that you're at work. And you're separating yourself maybe from, the rest of the house or whatever is going on, people in the house, whatever. And if there are people home with you, when you're in that workspace, people understand that you're at work. And when you're in that workspace yourself, that hopefully that creates a mind shift, that you're focusing on what you need to do for your job that day.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jen, for this insight. Thank you so much, sir. That also helped me a lot. Thank you so much, sir. And
Sure.
I would like to also dive more on, I do not know, but we normally call this procrastination. But it could get to the point it goes chronic. Like it's really, really, really huge. It's chronic. I don't know if there is some ways or long-term strategies for overcoming something, procrastination that have gotten to a point that is very chronic, Mr. Jen?
Yeah, so kind of a layered answer here. So I think a couple of things you can use. Again, it goes back to time management, right? So if it's chronic, block out smaller pieces of time to kind of dive into it and, force yourself, literally force yourself to get it done. Jocko Willink is a famous author, and he has a quote that I absolutely love, and it's discipline equals freedom. And, sometimes we have to do things that, we're not absolutely crazy about doing. It's not the first thing on your list to get done, but through discipline and creating a pattern that, hey, listen, at this time every day I have to do this, or I have to get this done on my sheet every day, on my list of things to do. I think that is it's critical to, and it's a hard thing to say sometimes, but sometimes we have to literally force ourselves to do something, even if it's a small step. Literally, if you have something, let's say you're writing a book, for example, and you have a goal of what you want to do every day. So literally, even if you sit, I'm using writing a book as an example. If you're sitting in front of your computer or you're sitting in front of the manuscript you're writing, and even if you haven't written anything that day, forcing yourself, saying, hey, from 8 o'clock in the morning to 8:30 in the morning, I am going to sit down and write, and that is part of my goal. And unless something really is extraordinary, I'm going to meet that goal. Even if you don't do anything during that half hour, even if you're just sitting looking at the page and nothing comes to mind, the fact that you're building that pattern, the fact that you're building that habit, I think long term will just become normal. It'll become a natural pattern.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jen. And lastly, Mr. Jen, I would like you to give an advice, to some probably some of the audience who doesn't know where to start, who feels stuck in their life today. What advice do you have for them, sir?
It's very common today. Um, the world is, obviously, a few years ago we went through COVID and that affected the
Mm,
world, worldwide and created great disruptions, in every area across the board. And I think sometimes, especially, and there's so much negativity in the world, I'll be honest, I try to limit the amount of news I listen to. If it's critical, obviously I'm listening to it, but everything is everything is comes across as negative and it kind of can drag you down. So, I think define a goal. It could be a small goal. It doesn't have to be a big goal, but define a goal and do it. If you're having a hard time getting to it, use discipline. Maybe it's 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day, and try to do something with that goal. Now, here's the thing. Let's say you're looking at a goal and let's say you're a couple of days into it, a few weeks into it, and it's not working for you, meaning you're not getting a passion for doing it. And that's a word that's used very often and sometimes overused, but something that you're not really interested in doing. Listen, if you're not interested in doing something, it is very difficult to get motivated to do it, right? But to try to pick something, it doesn't have to be professionally, it could be personally, it could be anything. It could be taking up a hobby, it could be begin working out, it could be writing a book, starting writing a book, it could begin starting to paint, whatever it might be, and take little snippets of it, find the goal, work on it, define a pattern that you're going to do, whether it could be daily, it could be every other day. You define your pattern, stick to the pattern. And then once you find something that, creates a little spark in you that you really, gets you excited to kind of look at it and work on it on that particular day. Even if you get nothing done, at least you're thinking about it, you're trying to get it done. I think over time that will give people some motivation to be able to kind of, sometimes you have to you have to get out of your own way. And maybe an odd phrase, but sometimes people really have to get out of their own way. And if they allow themselves to be creative, a lot of people don't think they're creative. I really believe most people in the world are very creative, but they've never given themselves an opportunity to try it. So I think it's really critical that you find a goal, you make a plan, and then you work on it with consistency. Consistency is key.
Thank you so much for the advice, Mr. Jen. I sincerely appreciate that. Thank you so much, sir. And
Thank you,
Mr.
sir.
Jen, there is a question I normally ask, sir. From the ancestors, from the forefathers, there are a lot of things that do exist during our ancestral time that is missing in our time today. If there is anyone or anything you would like to bring back to our time today, what do you think that thing would be, sir?
Well, that's a great question. Uh, I think that's a really good question. So I think, one of the things that I think is missing today, and this actually ties into one of my books, The Iron Road, is I think people have forgotten that once they give their word on something, that they're going to do it. And you know, in so many instances today, there's a lot of, we've said this a number of times, but so much negativity, and people often just, it's the right word, discard um, their commitments or discard, uh, what they're saying they're going to do, and that creates instability both personally and socially. So I think that's one of the things that I think that if we could bring that back. Hey, listen, every period in world history has good things and negative things, and again that goes back to focusing whether we're focusing on the positive or the negative. But I think it's really critical that for a society, both personally and as a society, that we hold to commitments that we give both personally to people and to society as a whole.
Hmm. Thank you so much, Mr. Jen. And I also want to sincerely thank you, Mr. Jen, for the opportunity, the time on speaking on procrastination, which really, really happens in our time today. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. It's been a true pleasure to be on your show.
All right, sir. Have a wonderful day, Mr. Jen. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Thank you.